Welcome. I'm Mike Nye.
And I'm Tarran Merlo from the Hail and Well Met podcast.
And I'm Alex Telander from the Ostium Network. Welcome to another episode of While There Is Coffee, There Is Hope. I'm Alex Telander, one of your hosts, and we have also here Tarran. Introduce yourself.
Good morning from WA in Perth, Australia. I'm Tarran Merlo, one of your co-hosts.
And we also have Mike with us.
Good morning. I'm Mike Nye. I'm also in Perth, Western Australia, one of your co-hosts. I have here my extra hot half-calf ristretto venti 4-pump sugar-free cinnamon dolce pumpkin spice soy skinny latte.
How long does that take
Delicious.
to make?
Oh, yeah, quite a long time. Yeah.
But worth it.
Yeah.
Just trying to outclass us here, aren't you?
Can you imagine ordering that at a Starbucks or a coffee shop? I mean, far out.
I did the other day get, what did I get? It was a iced mocha with pumpkin spice in it. It was very good.
Now, you'll have to explain to me what pumpkin spice is, because around this time every year, or, well, closer to your Thanksgiving, I guess, pumpkin spice blows up on the internet, and we don't get it down here in Australia. Well, not that I've seen.
Not even
anyway.
at Starbucks? Well, you can't check, can you?
Well, we don't have Starbucks in Western Australia. I know that there's a Starbucks on the Gold Coast, but obviously that is, not down the road for us.
Trip.
Yes.
Yeah, bit of a trip. Once it hits September, they roll out the pumpkin spice, and it's just a syrup they have, like your usual mint, vanilla, whatever, cherry, raspberry, whatever you want to put in your drink. Mm-hmm. Then they bring out the pumpkin spice and add it to everything.
But what is in it? Is it It's a pumpkin flavoring, but it's artificial. Okay, interesting.
So I did try making some a couple of years back. We were doing, I think I was making some, it was some protein balls. Sort of make your sweet sort of protein balls with, that are keto friendly. That's when I did it. Pumpkin spice keto balls.
Not a good band name. Not a good band name at all.
No, pumpkin spice keto balls. Yeah, you'd struggle to get the gigs there. There was definitely cinnamon in it.
This pumpkin spice comes out. It's all artificial, but it gives a pumpkin spice flavor to everything, and you can't get it the rest of the year. And I think they take it away come Christmas too. So then you've got your mint and all that stuff for Christmas, you see.
So it just makes your coffee taste like pumpkin, does it?
A little bit, not too much, depending. And the more you add, the sweeter it gets because it's mostly sugar and pumpkin. But then you can go to better places like one of our local shops, and another place where I used to live does it too, where you could order a coffee drink. They will make it with actual pumpkin in it. And that's just delicious.
Oh, right. So are we talking pumpkin as in pumpkin pie? Or are we talking pumpkin as in roast pumpkin? Or
it'll be from the pumpkin. It's not. It's the pumpkin that goes in the pumpkin pie, but it's got spices and stuff in it.
Yeah. Okay.
Have you had pumpkin pie before, Mark?
I have once. I think I remember it tasting a lot like marshmallow.
Yeah, because it's a very sweet sort of flavour to it, and obviously pumpkin is the main filling, but it's the additional herbs and spices that make it give it that piece, which is the spice mix that I made to make these.
I even made the mistake the other day when I was getting some more, because we've been having pumpkin biscuits and all the pumpkin loaf, everything, because my wife's been doing it all. And
I love pumpkin loaf.
I picked up some pumpkin. She just wanted one can, but I thought, it's organic, it's cheap, I'll get the one. She says, no, that's not the right one. You actually want to get this particular brand because it's not real pumpkin and it already has all the spice and stuff done in it, and that's the one you want.
Nice.
Don't go for the organic version.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go all the way back to coffee.
Yes, apologies.
What are you drinking, Tarran? What are you drinking right now?
I am devouring and I guess I have a little bit of shame here. It's not what I would deem a proper coffee, although I've been told to stop being such a snob in the past. It is a pod coffee,
like those guys on that podcast.
Oh, those guys!
Yeah.
All their talk is insane and ugh.
Especially that.
I'm very, very specific and picky. Yeah.
No, I'm having an espresso pod in my best dad ever cup, because apparently that's me. Which is a...
Did you buy the mug?
I didn't. No, I got it gifted, thankfully. not the Salvegan piece. It's called a Ispirazione Ristretto. So it's a ristretto pod, so quite strong. And its tagline is "A drop of deliciousness, the essence of Italy's iconic drinking tradition, inspired by the ambassador of all Italian coffees, the ristretto. We chose not to imitate, but roast our perfect version." So.
And what's your pod facilitator that puts the coffee in the mug?
It's an official 2-month-old for my wife's birthday. We got it for her, so an official Nespresso.
Oh, the Nespresso one.
Something. I think the
Nespresso,
the ones, yeah.
Yeah, not the Keurig.
No. We've had an espresso machine for a very long time, and it's journeyed into our office actually for a few years there, and then journeyed back home, and then it decided to pack it in mid-year, right in the middle of lockdown, which was a bad thing to occur. So we partook in another machine.
But unlike the rest of the planet right now, you're not going into lockdown.
No, we've come out, and in fact our worst state in the country in Melbourne has just come out.
Oh, that's right. Even they've come out of it. Was it 100 days or something, wasn't it?
Yeah. In fact, I think
hopefully by the time this gets listened to in April 2021, this will be a weird past time that may not exist anymore.
That would be lovely to see.
Probably not, though.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm drinking. What am I drinking? It's from Pete's coffee chain. Do you know Pete's down there, do you?
No.
I wouldn't think so. No, it's another chain. It actually started here in Berkeley, I think. And then they sold it a few years ago to a bigger chain, but they're pretty much everywhere. But it's another competing coffee chain with Starbucks. But I got the espresso a couple years ago just to try it out around Christmas when I got lots of gift cards and money from customers, which is nice. I can spend on coffee. And so I bought the pound of the stuff, and I've got a little espresso machine at home, which we got a few years ago, and I enjoy very much. The frother has broken, so I can't froth up the milk anymore. But honestly, a minute in the microwave does a pretty similar effect, and then I drop the shot in there, and it works fine.
Exactly what I did this morning as well. A minute in the microwave.
So today I'm having, because it's evening here and I just had dinner, I'm having a double shot of the Espresso Forte from Pete's.
Oh, lovely.
In our fancy cups all the way from Yosemite National Park, where I went on our honeymoon.
Oh wow. So you're planning on going out, partying tonight and staying up for the wee hours?
Definitely, yeah.
Clubbing.
It's busy Friday night, 50 of us there at least. I was going to mention too, because I know quite a bit about coffee from my history when I used to work for a company known as Borders Books and Music that no longer exists.
Yeah, we had a Borders.
13. But everyone had a coffee shop in there too. And as assistant manager, when I was running the shop, the whole store, I wanted to know a bit about the coffee too. So I was able to go through the whole coffee training, the barista training. I could run the whole coffee place and everything. So one interesting fact I've never forgotten is when you pour a shot from the espresso machine, do you know how long it lasts until it expires?
Yep, it's called blonding, and it's when the coffee changes color.
Well, are you looking it up, Mike? No. I want you to.
No. We have a fantastic coffee shop near our office. Actually, we haven't been there for quite a long time. I need to go back there. It's called Pony Espresso, and I know it's not espresso in case there's people listening going, it's espresso. It's the name. It's a play on the Pony Express, which was one of the first mail services, and I think they called it that because it's in an old barn.
Just jumping in on the espresso side of things. It is espresso in Italian, but in Spanish it is espresso.
Is it? Well, there you go. Okay, I did not realize that.
So your purists will say no, it is. There's no X, but technically.
So we got the Italian espresso, and then we got the Spanish espresso.
Yeah, exactly. Just to be different.
And everyone else just says coffee.
Yeah,
that's right. The Pony Espresso place is it's like an open plan coffee shop. There's no counter. They just sort of have areas you can sit, and then the coffee machine's like sort of in the middle of it. So if it's not busy, we used to go down there and have a chat to the guys or girls who were working there at the time, and occasionally they'd be busy, and I'd say, "Oh, do you mind if I make it?" And they're like, "No, knock yourself out." So, but every coffee I made was absolutely garbage, and I ended up having to.
Don't try that at your local Starbucks. They will not like
No,
it.
they won't. No. But yeah, so when they were trying to teach me how to be, a less shit barista, they took me through the blonding process. But alas, I am certainly not a very good barista.
Anyway, 10 seconds. How long a shot lasts before it expires?
10 seconds.
So that's how long you've got to get it in whatever drink you're making. You need to get it in there. Otherwise, after 10 seconds, apparently it loses its...
You mean after it's ground and before it goes in the machine? Sorry, I thought you meant like once the water was going through it.
I meant that once it's in the shots in the whatever class it is. Yeah, there's a 10-second timer on it. You've got to get it, put it into whatever drink it is to make it perfectly fresh.
Well, I didn't know that. I've learned something today.
I too, Alex.
When I made mine earlier, I was like, 10 seconds, it's crap now. I can't have it.
No, I too, Alex. My mother and my brother bought for a birthday a few years ago a similar legal course, and I'm a qualified barrister.
Nice.
Barrister.
Very good.
It's a running joke at home. Whenever everyone says,
okay.
What is this illegal to? Well, as a qualified barista, it's I can weigh in here, but no, I did a day course, much less than you would have done, but it was an interesting experience, sort of actually figuring or learning.
It's the sort of joke you'd hear on that tea podcast, when
terrible.
they joked about yerba mate and yerba mate, same sort of thing. Crass humor. We're not like that here.
But no, it made me sort of appreciate how when you pay your $4 or $5 for a cup of coffee, you always sit there and think, well, how on earth can it cost that much to go and buy a cup of coffee? It takes 5 minutes to make it, and it's 20 cents worth of beans and 200 mils worth of milk. The component cost of this coffee is 80 cents, if that sort of thing. How on earth are they charging $4 or $5 a coffee? But when you look at the required, well, I mean, that's a huge part of it, of course. We live in a capitalist economy, and that's the way it works. But yeah, the if a coffee shop's doing it right, and testing and double checking and adjusting the grind and everything through the process throughout a day as the weather changes and the heat and temperature changes, then there's a heck of a lot of wastage. So
yeah.
But also,
and then also what's happened over time is, Starbucks have definitely gone downhill for quality. Like, I wouldn't go there for a good plain coffee or whatever necessarily. I would expect that. And even Pete's their espresso is good, but other stuff isn't as good and strong as it used to be. But then there's other smaller chains, Acre Coffee, and a lot of like local little coffee shops that have opened up and do different ones. There's the slow pour or something, and just various ways you can make the coffee and have different strengths and all this stuff that taking it a lot more seriously and less sugars added into it, like Starbucks.
We have quite a few coffee drinkers where we work, and they've put us onto a few of the local roasters, so they sort of get large imports of beans from small batch, single farm, single lot sort of growers, and then home roast in their sort of small machines, on the higher end of the price point per kilo of beans, but usually very much worth it.
It's very local, yeah. If you have the names of those, we can pop those in the info. Of
there's a whole website
dedicated
to.
Cool.
Dedicated to.
We'll put all that in there, and so we can see where you can get some of the stuff. Yeah.
But one of the shops that I do quite like locally is Yahava. They do they do similarly. Yeah, they're a brand, but they do go and travel the world and source small lot, single sort of origin beans. That it's good to have them supporting those sort of industries. It's hard for a lot of small growers in a lot of countries to make anything. They get sort of used in a lot of ways.
Yep.
And
it's sugar, tea, whatever your fancy item of choice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to what do you love about coffee, Mike?
Well, I quite like when I go to a decent barista, and they do single origin coffees. So that's like, I guess, like a whiskey. You get your blended whiskey, which has a little bit of whiskies in from lots of different distilleries. Then you have your single malt, which is only from like a single batch or a single distillery. So likewise with coffee, you can have blends. So normally if you just go to a coffee shop and say, can I have a flat white or a cappuccino, you'll get a blend, which is designed to be, very consistent. But then some specialist coffee shops will have single origin coffees where they'll just have a single bean from, Colombia or, Brazil or, wherever. I've had them from all over the world. And it's really interesting to, talk to the barista, provided there's not a huge queue behind you. Have you got a single origin? Yes, we do. What have you got? I've got these. If you feel like a milky coffee, which one goes well with milk? Or if you feel like an espresso, which one,
pairings, even down to a little what cake you want with it and stuff too. Yeah, all pairs together.
And there's a coffee shop near where we work called Gordon Street Garage, which is fantastic, and they do.
Gordon Street Garage.
Yes, it used to be an old mechanics.
An old garage.
It's an old garage.
Shop.
And they kept the name?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Because I went to the garage today and got an oil change, you see. So.
Oh, there you go. Well,
but no coffee.
They
might have had coffee in the little waiting room.
Oh, they might have.
I wouldn't have called it coffee. No. I wouldn't call that coffee.
Black liquid. Yeah.
It's been there for 3 years. Yeah. Anyway. Single origin.
Yeah, so they do a thing called a sidecar, right? And what it is it's a small coffee with milk, like a maybe a long macchiato or a flat white. And then you have an espresso, and then you have a little glass of sparkling mineral water. So that's really nice to order with a single origin coffee because you get to try it as an espresso, you get to then try it with milk, and then you have a little palate cleanser of sparkling water. It's just delightful.
Very nice.
But a lot of caffeine, so you usually come away from that buzzing.
Yeah.
So
Which is usually the goal with a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
It is the most drunk drink on the planet. Coffee is.
It is. Yeah.
I like to taste the differences. Some single origin are sweet, some are a bit more bitter. There's lots of the flavor can be completely different between two single origin coffees.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was doing that training with Borders, and that they would have us just trying different coffees, and there would just be little samples, just the plain coffee, nothing in it. And you put it, and you're supposed to put it towards the back of the tongue to get the full taste. And I remember African coffee being more acidic, and I think it was Indonesian coffee being on the other spectrum of that, and just different depending on where you go and stuff.
Yeah, I also like. Sorry to continue and hog the chat. I also like when you have an espresso, and right at the end of the espresso, you get a little oily bit, which is like super mega flavor packed. That's like my favorite thing about having an espresso. That last.
I always think of the. You probably both played The Sims, right? When you have the espresso to wake up more, and you woo. All right, Tarran, what gets you going about coffee?
Yeah, look, I'd have to echo a little bit of Mike's thoughts around single origin side of things, and just that.
I mean, that was a good selling platform, I think. There, I mean, if anyone's deciding on coffee, you give them Mike's speech there, and they're like, "Where can I get one?"
Yeah. It is, and I guess the single origin approach makes it. You get such a distinctly different flavor and unique flavor each time, and it is part of that joy of having something different but familiar at the same time. So it's that sort of experience. But look, I guess for me, coffee's always been that pick me up in the morning, that thing to get you going, and an unfortunate crutch in a lot of ways, but it's again not a bad one to really enjoy. But I didn't start to really appreciate it, until we did a trip across to Europe back in 2011, I think it was, so about 9 or so years ago, and spent quite a bit of that time going through Italy, and having. Quite literally going to a petrol station, going to a gas station, and having a gas station espresso, and going, "How is this so good? Yeah, how is a truck stop kind of espresso better than the best made barista coffee that I'm having?"
You wouldn't get that at, what is it in England, Waitrose or whatever stuff they have
exactly. Exactly,
and not here at the 7-Eleven. Put it that way.
No, definitely not. And it was sort of that sort of really kicked off a rather than just quick, Nescafe premix, coffee granules in a cup with hot water and a bit of milk. That's what really made me start to really appreciate that this drink has a unique flavour and is something that can be really appreciated and enjoyed for its own sake, and not just as a stimulant to wake you up and give you a bit of a kick in the morning. So sort of exploring those differences and where the blends are from, where the single origins are from, what that taste means, and for my own benefit, getting to a point where I could make my own coffees in a way that is, I'm not going to say anywhere near as good as a properly trained barista, but on par with a level above, homemaking.
Nescafe instant.
Yeah, exactly. Is a good challenge and a good experience. Yeah.
Yeah. My kind of first experience with coffee was as a kid with my parents and family when we would be out at a restaurant, and after dinner, my dad would always just have an espresso. And I started having cappuccinos that way because I liked the foam on top and it was fun. And then eventually I switched over to espresso too. And I think that kind of started my liking for coffee eventually. And then through Borders and just other stuff, appreciating it more. Now I pretty much, especially during work days, I just have it every morning. And it's partly to wake me up, but I find that doesn't always work that necessarily for me. And it's not that important. It's more about, I just really enjoy the flavor and just having that taste. And then of course the smell is to die for. So
It is. We, as I said, my wife's birthday was only a month or so ago, and I took my two eldest to a candle shop. That my wife quite enjoys having nice scented candles, and I said, look, here's the range. You guys pick one for Mum each. They weren't cheap, so one each. And my eldest instantly went straight across to the one that she saw the coffee beans on and went, oh, Mum really likes coffee. Opened it up, smelt it, and went, that smells really yummy. I'm going to get that one. I went, okay, sure. And you're right, the smell of coffee, even for people that detest the flavour, you walk into a coffee shop or you walk into a market that has open-air coffee beans or something like that, and it's blissful.
My mother-in-law will never touch, I think she's tried coffee, but she will not drink a single drop, Starbucks, whatever. It doesn't matter how much sugar you put in it, she will never drink it, but she loves the smell of it, And I can remember even, again, at Borders, where even if I just spent a half hour covering someone's lunch, while I was there, and then spent, the rest of the night on the floor and everything. As soon as I'd come home, I'd smell like coffee, even though I'd barely been there, because it just permeates everything. Even if you just walk into a coffee shop and get back your coffee and walk out, you still it's in your clothes and everything,
Yeah.
And it's a good smell.
No, it's an interesting one.
All right, so let's dive into some history here. I got a little piece. Where did I get it from? Localhistories.org on early coffee. The coffee plant is native to Ethiopia. According to legend, coffee was discovered by an Ethiopian goat herd called Kaldi. He noticed that goats who ate certain beans became very lively. Coffee was drunk in Yemen by the 15th century. Can
I just jump in?
Yeah.
So I found a similar piece around Kaldi. But the sentence was, and I was hoping it was pulled from the same place, but goat herd, a Kaldi of Ethiopia, who noticed his goats are friskier after eating the berries. And I sort of went, okay,
what?
This poor guy was watching his goats get frisky after eating berries. Poor guy.
By the 16th century, coffee had spread to Persia and Turkey. There were many coffee houses where people could drink and also socialize. Coffee reached Europe in the late 16th century through trade and was introduced into Italy first. And obviously, today, coffee is still a very big thing in Italy, as you pointed out earlier. Coffee really became popular in Europe in the 17th century. In the 1600s, coffee houses opened across Europe. The first coffee house in England opened in Oxford in 1651. And by the late 17th century, there were many coffee houses in English towns where merchants and professional men met to drink cups of coffee, read newspapers, and chat. And no doubt staring daggers at the people across the way drinking tea, reading newspapers, and chatting. The first coffee house in London opened in 1652, and by the end of the 17th century, there were hundreds of them. Lloyd's Coffee House opened in London in the 18th century and soon became a centre of marine insurance. I recognize that name.
Oh, yeah.
However,
Lloyd's
by
of
the
London.
mid-18th century...
Sorry.
However, by the mid-18th century, coffee houses were past their heyday in England. Merchants met to do business in specialist exchanges and gentlemen's clubs took over as the places where well-to-do men met to socialize and chat. Meanwhile, the first coffee house in America opened in Boston, Massachusetts in 1689. Merchant's Coffee House opened in New York in 1737, and it became an important meeting place. In America, drinking coffee rather than tea became patriotic after the Boston Tea Party of 1773, a protest against British tax on tea. In the early 18th century, the Dutch began growing coffee in Indonesia. Also in the 18th century, people began growing coffee in Brazil. By the early 19th century, coffee plantations in Brazil were booming, and in the 20th century, a vast amount of coffee was grown in Uganda. So it's kind of showing there through time where it started trying to grow coffees in different places around the world. The modern coffee percolator was invented in 1889 by Hanson Goodrich.
So yeah, just adding into some of those first pieces into Europe there. One of the first coffee shops in the world was in Constantinople or Istanbul, depending on which way you lean there. With and that was in 1475, or give or take a few years. Which only 2 or 3 decades afterwards, the governor of Mecca turns around and just straight up bans coffee because its power that it was giving people. He was worried that it was going to promote a resistance to the rule that he had in place at the time.
Wow.
So he shuts down trade.
Make the people frisky, would it? And you don't want that happening, do we?
So he shuts it down in Istanbul. And 1 week later, which is deemed to be a reign of terror, the Sultan decides that coffee is instead blessed and has the governor executed.
Wow.
For stopping
the power of coffee then, huh?
Exactly. Then a couple, 100 years later, sort of 1600 sort of period, coffee, as you said, comes in to Italy through Venice, and we get some coffee houses getting opened in the late 1600s. But earlier in,
just as tea did, just as the plague did, all good things
all
come
comes through here. Pope Clementine the Eighth, yes, VII, yes, that's
I was
eight.
going to say seventh.
Was requested by some of his monks. So a few of his monks come out and turn around and say, "Hey, Pope, this Muslim drink." Yeah, what's up, Pope?
Padre, actually, but okay.
Yeah. This Muslim drink, it's bad. Yeah, clearly this thing is it's not of God. It's evil. We should just ban it, outlaw it.
Sinister.
Ban a
The
plant.
Pope turns around and says, and is quoted as saying, so I'm reading this as a quote: "This beverage is so good, it would be a sin to only let pagans drink it." And
Wow.
and the subsequent
as
sort
he's
of
drinking coffee. I'm sure he's saying that while he's drinking coffee.
So his sort of endorsement of that is part of the reason why it just boomed into Europe afterwards, because he sort of went, "No, this stuff
the
is
Pope's
awesome."
seal of approval.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this is pre any syrups and sauces and stuff in it. This is just the pure delicious bean.
Although apparently the Italian influence there is where the concept of adding milk into the coffee to change that is where that came in, and I learned that through Assassin's Creed, of all things. It actually
Which
caused
one?
me to
Do you
go
remember?
and research the game's, whether or not it was accurate or not. But whatever the main character's name, he gets
Ezio.
given a cup of coffee. Ezio, that's it. Gets given a cup of coffee by one of his colleagues, kind of thing, and he says, "Oh, this would taste really good with milk in it." And I sort of went, "Huh." Google away. I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay. That's kind of."
And then he said, "It's a latte good. It's a latte good. Yeah."
Which is funny when you're in Europe talking to an Italian, and you say, "Oh, can I have a coffee?" They'll of course give you an espresso.
Yep.
It's cafe latte if you want one with milk.
Well,
in Spain, it's much more complicated. You say un café con leche.
Con leche.
Speak to me more, Alex. To have it the way that we mostly know it, a lot of places in Italy were sort of, no, you're asking for an Americano, because that it's sort of, even a cafe latte in in Italy is distinctly different to the way we have it in more Australian and American sort of culture. It's still weird. So it's no, you want an
the way
Americano,
we did an Americano for my coffee barista days was it was coffee, whatever, how many, depending on what size it was, so many shots of espresso and then hot water, boiling water added to it to water it down.
No,
I will say I've a number of years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, because I was getting staining on my teeth, and I thought it was from the coffee, and so I switched to actually adding a bit of milk in the coffee, and it turned out it had nothing to do with the coffee. It was actually the mouthwash I was using.
Really?
Anyway,
there you go.
but I got so used to having milk in the coffee that I have it most of the time now. Like tonight, because I'm having the espresso, I went straight, but I usually do add milk, just even if it's a little bit to the top of it, and I've gotten very used to it and enjoy it. Very nice to that. Well, yeah, too. Just a little bit, not too much.
The only other little historical tidbit that I had, I was going to say tip bit because it's relevant.
That's wrong.
well, it links in, right? Yeah, there's context. In London, when Lloyd's opened in 1688, the word tip or a tip was coined. So its first use was here. In one of the coffee houses, there was a sign that read, "To ensure prompt service," or tips, and you would place it by a coffee cup. And those who wanted prompt or better service or better seating would go and put a coin in the mug, and you would then be shown to a better seat, or you would be given...
This is definitely a tip bit, you're right.
Yeah, so it's a tip bit. So perfect. Tips apparently is to ensure prompt service, apparently. And
it makes sense why over here you always want to make sure you tip your hairdresser very well, because otherwise the next time you won't be happy.
But like with all things coming out of any other part of the world, Europe ended up stealing most of it, and it was sort of around that mid 1600s.
Correct term there.
Yep. The Dutch first began transporting and cultivating coffee plants commercially, and smuggling coffee out of the Arabian port of Mocha, and shipping it to Ceylon in the East Indies for cultivation. So similarly to other plants like that.
So they didn't just steal the coffee; they stole the name too. Then.
Yeah. Exactly. I haven't done any research into that port name and whether or not that's where the Mocha, as we know it, is where. I mean,
it's obviously they stole that because they didn't think very hard to come up with a name.
No. We'll change it to an E. Nah, just keep it the A. But yes, it's it was stolen like tea, like sugar, like pretty much everything else that's good in this world. It was
human beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Humans don't change.
All right, so let's go back to some better things. Mike, when did your coffee origin begin? What was it like?
Oh, I don't know.
Like it was yesterday.
So when we were kids, my mum and dad, well, mostly mum, because dad's always been a tea drinker. He doesn't really get into coffee, but mum used to drink Nescafe instant coffee, and I remember her letting me try it once, and I just thought, this just tastes like burnt wood. Why would anyone want to drink this? And
yet in my head, I can still hear the old English ads of Nescafe.
Yeah.
Coffee at its best. It's like, what do you mean?
No way.
You're kidding.
It's awful. I mean, I've single-handedly just destroyed our chances of getting sponsored by Nestle now.
That's okay, though. Yeah. Nestle are horrible people.
Yeah, they are,
steal
actually.
water from developing countries, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. No, so I didn't drink it for a long time because... Sorry, Tarran?
You're not okay with the stealing of water, right?
No, I'm not okay with that. I'm okay with not being sponsored.
All the shit coffee.
Yeah, all the shit coffee. So I didn't drink it for a long time, and I just stuck to tea. And then when I started in the, working professionally, people used to say, we'll go and get a coffee. So I'd tag along, and I remember getting a coffee, from a decent barista in town. I forget where it was now. This was many moons ago. Thinking this tastes nothing like the horrible stuff that Mum used to drink, right? So I started getting into it, and then you go to the coffee shop and you'd see they'd have cold brew coffee, and they'd have all the different extractions like drip coffee and then single origin, and I would just like try them. Or I like that, or I don't like that as much, or and just it just spread from there. Like to try lots of different things. So that's what I did.
Yeah,
It's the right move. Fortunately, it didn't turn you off coffee forever after the instant that you.
No, it'd be
the
pretty
right
hard
path.
to turn me off something forever. Like even I was still willing to give it a go even after the burnt wood experience. So yeah.
Oh dear.
All right, how about you, Tarran? Do you remember much?
Yeah, I
of your
think
history?
similar sort of experience there. Parents drinking it, having the smell, and I definitely distinctly remembering the smell. Going, this smells fantastic, but the taste of it was foul. Yeah, where I would always have, not always. I would occasionally have a weak, overly sugared, overly milked coffee. Younger, but it was always that sort of thing that Mum and Dad would always sort of, you can have a tea because that's okay, but you can't have coffee because it's got
coffee
caffeine.
is the off limits because of the caffeine.
Yeah, of course,
You're
completely
already bloody
unaware.
hyper enough.
Well, completely unaware that tea had, a substantial amount of caffeine in it anyway.
Right.
So, I would have it on the odd occasion, but never really enjoyed it. Obviously, without 6 sugars and the rest. It wasn't. University, you'd have occasionally a cup to get you through that lecture that you knew was coming up, or the early start that was not looking forward to that on a Tuesday morning or something like that. But it probably wasn't until I started properly where I am now, sort of at Expanse, where we work together, where it was more of that ritualistic piece of okay, we've started for the day, now we go and get a coffee. And
instead of the smoke break, we need to go have a cigarette.
Yeah,
much better.
I mean, that still unfortunately occurs a little bit at the office, but no, it's part of that societal ritualistic approach to being part of that team, being part of that bonding group, is to go and get a coffee together. And a lot of it's more about the getting together than the actual drinking of the coffee. I mean, we still do that to this day, where my coffee consumption is at an all-time low. Probably the lowest it's been since I started drinking coffee, and and I still have one in the morning, but again, that's more because we we jump across the road and we go and have a coffee together. So, drinking it.
I can remember that with my wife too, with one of the law practice she used to work at, where was a single lawyer and stuff. But I think when she was starting there, one of her jobs would be the coffee person who'd go out, and pick up the 5 coffees for all the staff and bring it back and for everyone to enjoy, and you get a free coffee out of it. Yeah,
it's part of that process. So that would be where I'd put it down to actually properly drinking coffee rather than just having the rare odd occasion. How about yourself?
Well, I talked a little bit earlier with the espressos and stuff like that. And again, with Borders, just getting into that and liking coffee more and more. And when you're with Borders, you can get free coffee that way and stuff too. So over the years, it's just been kind of adding more and more. And then more recently, over the last few years, I've even gone as far as getting a grinder and actually grinding fresh beans and doing it that way and stuff too. Yeah. So I had my own problems with that, where even though the grinder will have settings for, like a particular grinder I got was settings for like Turkish espresso and then regular pour coffee, whatever. Even on the Turkish setting, it still wouldn't do it fine enough. So I realized it's just a crap grinder as that one. So now I actually got a manual one, which obviously takes longer, but it does it much better, and you get the difference with it. Yeah. All right, so go ahead. Mike actually did a good little segue with our instant coffee, because that's my little next modern coffee history bit on the deliciousness not of instant coffee. Instant coffee was invented by New Zealander David Strang in 1889.
It's a good thing they're all the way over the ocean.
But there
freeze-dried coffee
slightly before that. I did find out.
You did a deeper dive into the beans.
It's one of those patents are stupid. Well, they're not. They're great. Don't get me wrong. Patents are fantastic, and it's a good process. But it's one of those things that his patent kind of allowed David Strang's patent to work and make sense, if that makes sense. And it was only 9 years earlier. What was his name? Alphonse Allais in France patent number 141520, was a patent for soluble coffee, as opposed to something you would have to press through, with pressure to get it through. So it kind of it led that way for Strang to then implement his patent number 3518 to then move forward.
Lots of different ones.
Yeah, sorry, keep going.
Okay, so freeze-dried coffee was invented in 1938. Meanwhile, decaffeinated coffee was invented by Ludwig Roselius in 1903. Melita Benz, and Melita I've heard before, invented the coffee filter, obviously the famous filter, yes, in 1908. So the filter that goes in every kind of coffee machine you have on the planet. Achille Gaggia invented the modern espresso machine in 1946. The first pump-driven espresso machine was made in 1960. Meanwhile, in the early 20th century, the coffee table became a popular item of furniture. During the Second World War, coffee was rationed for a short time in the US. Coffee rationing was introduced in November 1942, but it only lasted till July 1943. Today, coffee is still one of the most popular drinks. Brazil is still the world's largest producer of coffee.
Okay.
Oh, and another weird fact, the giant espresso machines that Starbucks has, well, they usually have two of them next to it, $25,000 a piece.
Well, that's not too bad, but it doesn't trump the
fancy piece of machine
at the coffee shop I mentioned earlier near our work, the Pony Espresso. They have a machine called a Slayer, right? And
yes,
this Slayer Espresso, right? You have
band,
to
if you want to sponsor us, and we'll play you some music at this point if you want. Yeah.
But you should have a look at their website if they're still around. Slayer Espresso, and their coffee machine is worth over $100,000.
Wow,
Australian. So like, what's that? $70,000 US?
A lot still.
Yeah.
But it's pretty nice.
It wouldn't buy you any real estate in California, but it's pretty nice.
Yeah, but it gets you a really good coffee machine.
Yeah, it sure does.
Yeah, it's got like walnut handles and all sorts of things. It's nice.
One of the interesting things I found when I was doing a bit of reading there, Alex, with when the vacuum sort of freeze-dried coffee was developed, was I love reading things, and I love the history of things that were either developed for war that turned out to have completely the opposite effects and be used, or the sad side of things where things were developed not for war and then got usurped and turned into weaponized and those sort of pieces. But apparently the vacuuming process was something that the National Research Corporation was looking into around that was in Massachusetts, specifically to vacuum things for use in wartime use. But the flow-on effect, that vacuuming process they developed after the war, was then used for things like to produce penicillin, blood plasma, streptomycin, all for war use, of course. But as World War II finished, NRC then turned to, well, how can we use this for peacetime side of things? Then formed their own, another peacetime sort of corporation, which is the FFC, the Florida Food Corporation, and made things like concentrated orange juice powder and all of those sort of other things that have come out of it. And then, that company eventually became Minute Maid. That was an interesting one.
Which is shitty orange juice.
from really terrible coffee to really terrible orange juice, we can vacuum and freeze dry everything.
Yeah, that sums up our next topic on instant coffee opinions. I think we've already made them pretty clear.
I'm yet to find a good one.
I'm thinking, I know NASA too, and astronauts use a lot of obviously vacuum-packed, freeze-dried. All their stuff is done like that too. So it's really, I'm sure it started kind of with them in the military, and now I'm thinking also the Home Shop It network or whatever advertises, vacuum pack your food and whatever it is, so it takes up less space in the fridge and stuff like that.
We do vacuum pack our clothes, some of the older kids' clothes that we keep for the next child.
Yeah, makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, we do vacuum pack those to stick them in storage.
That's a good idea.
But, I mean, You know,
And also we got one in Sweden. We got a nice pillow that had I still have it. I think of landscape of Stockholm, which was very nice. But it was all vacuum packed, so it was perfectly flat. And then when we got back here, opened it up.
Thankfully, though, you're not going to go and eat your pillow or eat these kids' clothes or drink them.
Screaming, maybe.
Unlike the terrible process of vacuum sealing coffee. It's.
I feel like in the early days my mum had it. I don't know how much she actually had it herself, but I just remember thinking it just didn't look good being in this tin. And then you think of all Maxwell House, all these different, numerous brands of just different instant coffee that just walk past in the shop and never even look at it anymore. Because the idea is just... I
remember going down... you'd go to your local supermarket as a child, so we're talking 80s, 90s sort of period of time, and you'd go down the aisle for teas and coffees and drinks and those sort of things. And one side would be teas, all tea bags, because no one did loose leaf, or one or two. You'd have a Twinings sort of box, and that's about it. And on the opposite side,
the large price points, you'd ignore it.
And the other side would be all the coffee. And again, it was all instant coffee. You go down now, and it's the right hand side is probably majority still tea bags, but it's probably more 70% tea bags and 30% loose leaf, and a lot more variety and range. You look down coffee, and it's probably more almost a 50-50 split, where you've got your instant coffees there, you've got still your Nescafe Blend 43, but now they've got a gold edition which tastes just as terrible, but it's got a new package on it.
It's got a fancy label, so it's got to be better.
You'll see a bunch of pods. That the supermarket will do their own.
I was about to say a new section now is the pod section. Yeah,
but there is
teas and coffees.
Yeah, there is beans. You can actually buy beans, and unfortunately, the shelf life of a lot of beans, even vacuum sealed and that sort of piece, is still not fantastic. But not recommended to buy coffee beans from your shopping centre. But
it's not like wine. The older the better.
No. But I guess it's kind of. It's better to get those than to not have them at all, I guess. So here
it's pretty much the same thing again. You've got all these different, and the pod section now, and then we will usually have a grinder too, where you can actually grind your beans there, and then if you want, and have them all ready to go.
That'd be
and
cool.
Then the other section you have is by the milk section, which is your creamers, your mixer section, with all your various little creamers you want in your coffee and which flavor you want. So this time of year, you'll be able to get your pumpkin spice creamer and your caramel.
Can you explain
and chocolate.
creamers to Australians?
What the hell is creamers?
So it's like a not like heavy whipping cream, but like an extra little creamer milk thing in the coffee, but it's flavored and extra sugar.
So it's like
that way
cream, like pouring cream.
So you can make your sweet Starbucks drink at home with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
That sounds
It's
terrible.
not too heavy, but it's definitely heavier than regular milk.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's just sweet and stuff, and if you want a flavor with it, then
not like condensed milk.
It is. No.
Okay. So it's like cream with flavor, like pouring cream with flavor in it. Okay.
But no, I mean, it's not. I had to say it's not quite full cream, but it's probably in between cream and milk.
What sort of quantity are we talking about? Is it sort of a
not much? Yeah, it's more just like a top up. You'd put a little bit on in thing, and again, it depends on how sweet you want it because it already has sugar and everything in it too.
And that way you just have your coffee or
yeah, your black coffee. You put it in the cream in the black coffee, and then you've got your flavored coffee of whatever it is.
I'm not going to lie, that sounds terrible. I see creamers mentioned all over the place, and it's always perplexed me onto what on earth. Do you not understand the concept of milk? Do you what is this? But okay, so it's clearly very different to that. That's not great. Sorry.
So we're going to move on to our next thing, which I heard of years ago that I employ now because I heard it from some coffee place that if you keep your beans and your ground coffee in the freezer, I don't know if it keeps it fresher or maintains the life better or what it is. But
yeah, I heard that too.
Ever since I heard this, I've been doing it, and I just do it now. And I have little, basically Ziploc bags of different coffees in the freezer now that I can grab each morning and make coffee with.
Okay.
Have you guys heard anything about this?
I mean, I've looked into storing, coffee in the past, but to be honest, it's always been, out of sunlight, in a vacuum sealed.
Good one.
It's always sort of been the keep it dry, keep it out of the sunlight. But not putting
less
it
air
in
if possible, better.
in the
Yeah.
freezer. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay.
Well, because a lot of people, they say technically like one of those, like a pound bag of coffee.
Yeah.
It's supposed to last like a week. You're supposed to get through it within a week before you get your next one, sort of thing. And
Yeah. Okay.
it's like, I'm not going to drink coffee that fast. I mean, it would be different if you have a big family. However, I do have a customer on my route who they get a coffee like every Thursday or Friday, whatever it is, from some place in some state delivered to them.
Oh wow. Yeah, I guess if you're drinking it that frequently, you need to find a way of keeping it as fresh as possible. And I mean, I just started reading through that. It does seem to make it work, but the trick is what you're doing there is to not keep taking the large bag out of the freezer each time to take a small amount out. It's to portion it up into individual bags so that you're only pulling out what is needed for that period of time without disturbing the rest of it. So the key is to keep the rest of them frozen and isolated. But it does say keep them. Make sure your freezer is a frost-free freezer.
Right. Yeah.
So obviously, having water build up and that sort of thing is going to ruin them. But
cold brew.
That's interesting.
But again, I keep them in, and I was keeping them in a coffee, whatever the bag or whatever stuff is. But now I've switched to Ziploc because I can actually get a full seal that way and wash all the air out, sort of thing and stuff. So it works better.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. You
How does your coffee drinking compare to your tea drinking? If you had to rank them and compare them.
I mean, quantity for me is as I said, I have 1 cup of coffee a day in the morning, compared with probably the equivalent of 3 or 4 cups of tea, depending on the day and my mood and energy levels and how I'm feeling. But usually it's always the coffee in the morning, but then sort of wait and see how much of the tea. But so a 3 or 4 to 1 sort of ratio there of tea to coffee. From a enjoyment level, I'd have to absolutely rank tea, leagues above the coffee. Coffee's nice.
Did you say leagues or leaves?
Both. Many leaves above. No, look, I just that tea is, coffee, as I said earlier, is more about the experience of going as a group to enjoy the experience of it. And tea has that similar experience for me, but it's more personable. It's more me time, if that makes sense. And then the flow on from that is, the variation in taste and available, options from my point of view with tea is much wider. There's a lot more options there, so I sort of enjoy that experience a lot more than going with the coffee side of things. Yeah,
makes sense. Mike, what are your opinions?
It's hard. I mean, I appreciate them each for their different merits, right? I usually have a cup of coffee in the morning, like Tarran said. It's pretty rare that I wouldn't. Maybe I probably drink a little bit more coffee than I do tea, purely because of, at work it's easy to just pop out and grab a coffee when you need a break rather than, make a pot of tea. Although lately I have been making pots of tea at work, so yeah.
But do you also have like a going coffee pot at the where you work either too?
No, coffee pots are not really a thing that we do in Australia. Like, I've seen a lot of YouTube videos. Like, there's a channel called Technology Connections, where he talks about coffee makers and he talks about putting the pot of coffee on, and I'm like, no one does that here. It's not the done thing. Like, maybe when we were kids,
I do have a friend that does it, Mike, but not. But you're right. It's one person that I know out of my entire life. That's
I mean, sometimes
he's the anomaly.
Like if you go to like a work conference or whatever, and it's at a hotel, sometimes they'll have it in the back of the room, but no one. Well, I don't know about no one, but it'd be rare to drink it. You'd have to be desperate to drink it. It just doesn't taste as nice.
I wonder what the Americans do when they come over to visit. Then,
well, yeah, they order Americanos, and then we're like, what's that? Yeah,
I'll have a me, please.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, coffee shops, you get like the drip coffee now, which I guess is similar to like a coffee pot, although I think it's prepared
How about the new
differently.
pod craze then too? Because I mean, over here it's just everywhere, and everyone's got one
Yeah,
and
I mean,
stuff
the
too.
pod craze hit a while ago in Australia.
Hmm.
We've had the pod stuff for quite some time, and on one hand, it's good because it's simple and it's quick, and you can make a cup of coffee that is acceptable, right? It's not that they're not fantastic by any stretch of any stretch of the imagination, but it's better than instant coffee.
Yep,
I mean, for
I'll give
me,
you that.
like some of the guys at work who are right into their coffee are like, they would never drink pod coffee, and
Hmm.
they have a coffee machine at home, like a proper espresso machine and a grinder, and they'll grind the beans and blah blah blah. But I'm like, if I'm gonna have a cup of coffee, I'll go and pay a barista to do it, right? Because they're gonna make a better cup of coffee than I am every single time.
And much quicker.
Yeah, and much quicker.
Yeah.
And I don't have to clean up, and it's a nice sort of outing. You can go for a walk with the girls, walk down to the coffee shop. So, yeah, I have had a proper coffee machine, and I found that I just wouldn't use it because I just couldn't be bothered, because I am, a lazy man.
Yeah, I tend to use my espresso machine usually on the weekends or whenever I'm off work, possibly just because it is a bit of an ordeal getting it ready, putting it in the thing, and then, putting the shot through and then cleaning everything up and rinsing it all out and everything. So it is a bit of time before I get the coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I drink more tea than coffee, definitely. Again, probably a 3-to-1 ratio, I'd say. Usually every morning for work, I'll do coffee and then tea later on in the day when I'm done with work. And then if it's my day off, I'll be drinking way more tea than coffee. And some days when I'm off too, I'll be like, I'll skip coffee. I won't even do coffee just to be sure that I'm not fully addicted,
Yeah.
I can stop whenever I want. I have found, because I've been going again over the last few years of just trying lots of different coffees and stuff like that too. And I definitely find that, yes, I can taste differences, but I feel I'm not as trained, taster to actually notice it that much. And I kind of don't care enough to want to be able to have all these different kinds of coffee. Whereas with tea, I can taste the different flavors a lot stronger and enjoy them more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think even though there's the potential to be just as snobby with your coffee as you are with your tea.
Oh yeah.
I'm not there. All right, I think we're on to our last bit of our coffee recommendations. Who wants to go first?
Oh, I can go first, but I just need to Google what it's called.
Well, then you can't go first.
Okay. Oh, what's it called?
I'll jump in if you want while you're Googling away, Mike.
While he's deciding some coffee he's going to find from somewhere. Yeah, he doesn't know about.
No, I know exactly what it is. I just can't remember what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to. We've talked a little bit around single origin and blends and those sort of pieces. And I know I've mentioned Yahava before on this episode and previous episodes for the other drink-related items that we might cover off at times.
And we'll put that in the show notes, but just so I'm clear now, how do you spell that?
Yahava. Yahava.
Do you know the origin of all, the etymology?
It's African, I believe, is the etymology of the name itself, but I will check that out and add it to the show notes, actually. But they do a whole range of different sort of blends, which is fine, and they do unfortunate decaffeinated ones as well, which, to be honest, aren't that bad. But what they also do recently is specialty estate single origin runs that they do, and they change and they vary each, usually monthly. They go and source a new blend or a new single origin and bring it in. Some of them last for 2 or 3 months, and this year specifically, they've lasted a little longer because clearly traveling is hard.
Yep.
But right now, I will probably have to put some pretty significant kudos behind the current specialty estate that's on there, which is the Columbia Rafael Amaya. So it's a single origin from a micro lot, small estate and farms dotted throughout the coffee belt of Colombia, and that Rafael Amaya area, and they're fantastic. The biggest problem with them is they have a very short run life because it's very literally they grab the stock that's available at the time, import it through, sell it, and once it's gone, it's gone. So I've had some really great.
I was about to say, because we're doing this in end of October 2020, but by the time this episode ends,
yeah. So I guess.
But does it come back ever, or is it gone for good?
No, because each year's, even if they go back to the same microlot, the next year's bean is
like wine. It's a different thing. Yeah,
it's different. I mean, might still be as good or better, but so all I could really recommend there, rather than a specific brand, not brand, but a specific release.
Yeah, whatever. Time period. Yeah,
I really have been trusting the Yahava single origin runs that they've done.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit more expensive than their blends, but I have to rate all of them.
You want that extra bit of quality?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've been very good.
Mm.
Yeah. And
I do. My cousin actually does live in Colombia. I could always check with him.
Oh, yeah. This particular one has notes of milk chocolate, praline, lemon, and orange. So, and I can, I'll agree. It definitely has some of those flavors coming through.
Did you find it, Mike?
I did find it. So it's something a little bit different. So rather than recommend like a bean or whatever, there's a company
quicker than instant coffee, isn't it?
It is. There's a company in Australia called Hunt and Brew. So I don't know whether you'll be able to get this overseas, but basically,
it's Hunt, right? With an H.
Yeah, Hunt. Yeah, Hunt and Brew. Even though it is Australian, very good. They do single origin cold brew coffee, where you can buy it like at most supermarkets or lunch shops or whatever have started stocking it, and it is just fantastic. It has no sugar, so it's a single origin with milk. It's brewed strong, and you can just grab it out of the fridge and just drink it straight away. And it is on par with like a barista made coffee easily.
Oh, cool! That you can do at home and have ready in your fridge.
Very nice.
Yeah. You just buy them, and they are fantastic. Every time I'm at the shops, I grab myself a cheeky one to have on the way home, and they are delicious.
Are they the ones with in the small sort of 200 mil?
Yep, they're the ones.
And they've got the various animals. Yeah, there's a leopard and an eagle. Okay.
Yep. So the eagle.
Now, is this just straight coffee, or does it have milk in it too?
It's got milk in it, but that's it. It's coffee and milk, and that's it.
I think they do a straight coffee.
Oh, they do a black one? I haven't seen that. I'm looking at the milk one.
Because that's becoming a big thing over here, is the cold brew, and they put it in a fancy can to go right next to
that's becoming a big thing over here as well. Like we've got like
caffeine drinks and all that, so you can get your shots going, so you can do 500 more, whatever you're doing.
We've got like a speciality like bottle shop. We call them bottle shops, liquor store, I guess you would call them, close to where we work, where they have craft beers on tap, and you can fill up growlers or little party kegs or whatever. And they've started doing single brew coffee in a can as well.
Coffee,
yeah.
They're for years they've had here from Starbucks, which would be like a little thing, like I said. And it's milk and coffee, and it's like a frappuccino and just different flavors and stuff like that. But again, it's a sweet sugary coffee drink, but I wouldn't call the coffee anything good or special or anything. These sound like they'd actually taste a lot better.
Oh yeah, they're excellent. They have three ones. They've got one from Brazil, which is from the Cerrado region. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. They got one from Colombia, which is from
means closed.
Does it? There you go. Region. They've got a Colombia one, which is from I guess it's. Oh man, I'm not even going to have a go at pronouncing that. It's from Colombia, and
come on, do it.
Okay, it's like I don't know how to pronounce the umlaut things. It's like La Union Narino, maybe.
That sounded pretty good.
You're from Colombia. Okay. Let me know how my pronunciation was.
Union is how we say. You're pretty close.
Okay.
I'll ask my. Can you message that through? I'll ask my brother-in-law.
Yeah, I will. And they have one from Honduras, which is my personal favorite, which is from San Juan.
So, tangent here. So, the umlaut, when it's over a U in any Spanish language, you just say the U.
Oh, do you?
Basically.
Okay.
Normally, if it's in a word where the U will be further along and it doesn't have the two dots over it, you wouldn't actually pronounce the U. But when there's two dots over it, you pronounce the U.
Well, this one's not. It's like LA, normal, and then normal U, normal N, normal I. The O has like an apostrophe over it. Hang on,
maybe
you know what? Why am I
That's just
why am I trying to
text it over.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
We have the
Now what
technology to,
because the Brazilian is the Portuguese, which I can sort of get, but the Spanish I can at least get.
Okay, here I'm gonna post it in our Discord. Okay.
Portuguese I can sort of like when I can read it, I can kind of pass it
Yeah.
out. But if it's spoken to me, then
Pronounce
La
that.
Unión Nariño. So
Nariño.
that it has an ñ. That N with the bit over the N is ñ sound. So
Okay,
yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So that's just the place.
Yes, that's where they get the coffee from.
La
That's-
Unión.
Well,
So
that's
the
from
Union
one of
in
them.
Nariño in Colombia. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Anyway, it's totally delicious. Any Aussies listening to this, go and get some because it is wicked, and I want them to stick around and not go out
Just
of business.
the concept of that you have this like coffee from Colombia that's been bottled and put into this thing, and it tastes fantastic, and it's come all the way over
I
to
know.
Western Australia. You can get it at any shop you need to
Yep.
for a decent price,
Yep.
and it's really good coffee.
It's amazing coffee.
What a time
Really
we live
good.
in.
Yeah,
The Pope, what was it, Pius VII? He'd be impressed.
he would be
he'd
impressed.
be on board, I think.
Like, you pagans are onto something.
Need a little Pope endorse stamp.
That's it.
Some papal fortitude. All right, so the first one I'm going to recommend is one of the few businesses on my route is called blank. I knew I was going to blank on the name. They make native something. They make everything they make in the shop is although they don't make anything, but everything they have in the shop is all made by Native American tribes across the country, which is pretty cool. And I can even remember once doing a special cash on demand delivery where I'm delivering something and then they have to pay me in check or cash for this item, and it was like $1,500 to do it as a piece of jewelry from somewhere in the country. Native Riders, that's what it's called. And so I was stopped by, and I noticed that I was delivering a box of coffee every once in a while. So I was like, oh, they've got coffee there. I should go check it out. So I bought a bag, and it's the...
Did they ever go missing, Alex? Go missing?
No.
No? Okay. Oh,
No.
okay.
But I thought when I was going to get some coffee, he might, give me a discount or give me some free, but
Yeah.
no luck.
Okay.
And they won't be sponsoring this episode probably either.
Okay.
Anyway, the coffee is Spirit Mountain Roasting Company.
Oh, I like the name.
Which he said it's all roasted in Arizona, he said. And this particular one is Colombia La Pradera. Melva Salazar.
Pradera.
Altitude 1,800 meters. Notes chocolate, citrus, and caramel.
Mate, that sounds real good.
And it's a nice little fancy logo and bag and everything. Yeah, so it was pretty good. So that's my first rec.
You're making me.
Do we have a second from anyone?
I'll be honest. No, I kind of.
What a coffee.
Well, no, from that point of view, I sort of went, that's probably my best
You
experience.
blew your espresso shot, is what you're saying?
I did.
With that one.
I was over in 20 to 30 seconds.
No
and
more
that was it.
friskiness.
I need some more. I need some more beans. Need some more of the
All
cherry.
right. I'll do my second one, which is the coffee. I remember when I started having it a couple years ago, which again is from Pete's, and I just got it at the shops because they had various Pete's ones there, and it's called Big Bang. Fortunately, they still have it around. I think it's a blend, but it has notes of chocolate in it that are always very potent and noticeable. And so pretty much whenever I have it, any form, I always really enjoy it. And my wife loves it too. It's her favorite coffee. And that's the one we keep going for. Even after trying all these different other kinds of coffees and espressos and stuff, it's like, they're okay, but this is still the good stuff that I will keep going back to and recommending. So that's Pete's Big Bang, which you can get anywhere.
That's very good. If you're in Australia, a lot of the guys at work who are big time coffee aficionados, there's a website called coffeesnobs.com.au, and on there they have independent roasters who sell their coffee through coffeesnobs.com.au, and I've had some of them because a guy called Graham at work, who's a big coffee expert.
Aficionado?
Yeah, he brings his beans in. He has a hand grinder, and he has what's called a AeroPress, and he makes espresso at the office.
Oh, the AeroPress. We got one of those too. Actually, yeah, we got that.
Excellent coffee. Very, very good.
That's actually
coffee.
the website that I was referring to before, Mike.
Oh, okay.
Snobs.
Yeah.
So no, highly recommend it. You have a lot of local roasters who have their own setups, make it all work. It's
I'm pretty sure I've had them.
Yeah, we've got a little AeroPress thing that I think my wife found it a number of years ago and had it on a wish list and then got it for birthday and like that. And it's handy for if you just want to make a single cup of coffee.
Yeah.
And you just, you've got the little bottom part, you put the filter, this tiny little filter, and then you put whatever much coffee you want and then do the water and everything. And that's what I do every morning for my coffee to make one thing of coffee and everything. And we just got a new one because the other one, the rubber, was starting to wear away, but we'd had it for like 12, 15 years,
Yeah.
And you can order new filters and they give you like the 500 at a time, so you don't go through them that fast and stuff. It's been great.
They do make
and it's only
fantastic
$50 on
coffee.
Amazon. Yeah.
Well, they make great.
And again, you can choose really easily how strong you want it and how much you want and all this stuff. Yeah. It's very versatile. Okay, well, that wraps up my agenda. Any other
I do. I've got two other things I wanted to do.
Good.
One was obviously, obviously we do drink the occasional coffee, but I think we can all agree that tea is our go-to.
4T? Our 4T, if you will?
Our 40, yes, I like it. So there were two sort of crossovers that I wanted to have a quick.
Are we all 40, by the way? I'm 41. I don't know how old you guys are.
No, I'm only 30. 30.
Really? Oh, wow. I'm 38. I'm old. I feel like I'm a lot older.
I was really hoping that was going to work.
My bones think I'm about 90, but...
this year has felt like a decade.
Yeah.
But anyway, you go back to your tea.
Yeah, the first sort of crossover that I wanted to do, I wanted to leave with a bang, so I'll leave the better one, or the more interesting one.
A big bang? No.
The first one is have either of you heard of and or tried a dirty chai?
Yes, do not like, not my cup of tea.
I liked it. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sorry.
So obviously, Mike's wrong, but that's fine.
Yep.
Wouldn't be the first time.
I've had one. It's very nice. I'm a big chai fan.
I like chai, but not dirty chai.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting
He doesn't like Black Russians either.
Oh, I love Black Russians. Don't.
For those of you who don't know what it is, and obviously the three of us are fully aware, is a chai tea or a chai latte with a shot or two of espresso to give it a coffee kick. So you still get all the benefits of the black tea and all the amazing flavors of chai, but then you get the added flavor of your coffee.
See, for me,
these are one of those things that pretty much every coffee place in the country here at least can do it, but they don't always have it as a menu item. It's one of those things where you can ask for it and they can do it for you. And
See,
and the trick of all of that is making sure your coffee's good, because a bad coffee and a dirty chai makes the whole thing.
Exactly. It ruins the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like a bad drummer in a band.
I have to give it another try. I mean, for me, I found that there was too much going on.
You mean another chai?
Yeah, well, another dirty chai. Like, there was too much going on, You've got... Because chai latte itself is very sweet and full of, spice flavor and delicious.
Very complex.
But then I find coffee is very complex as well, right? So if I'm in the mood, if I'm feeling saucy and want to mix my coffee with something, I'll usually have a mocha, because I find, chocolate, the flavor of chocolate, it complements the coffee quite well and is simple enough that it's not, overwhelming to my palate.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
And of course, that depends on what kind of chocolate you use too, and what, bittersweet, and just all the various kinds of chocolate, and what brand. And again, if you have a not so good chocolate, it's noticeable.
Oh, Tarran, you know what we need to do? Friday after payday, hot chocolates again. We used to. There's a coffee shop. I can't remember what it's called. Tarran will probably remember.
No, but I'm going to go.
I was going to say it is Friday, but it's not where you are.
What these guys do is they take Belgian chocolate,
and it was my payday this week.
Oh, was it? Well, there you go. They take Belgian chocolate. I think it's Lindt that they use, and they melt it in a big pot, and then it's basically a scoop of that and milk.
So real quick aside, weird video that my wife was watching the other day of someone who was chasing, it was what is it? The little animal in Australia.
Was it a
devil?
Quokka? Tasmanian devil?
Yeah. and he's chasing it. It took his lint chocolate, so he kept chasing it. He's got my lint. He's got my lint.
A Tasmanian devil, really?
Yeah, he got it back though.
They're very very rare to come across Tasmanian devils.
Okay, but
in the wild, yeah.
Yeah, in the wild.
Anyway, you can. I'm sure that you Google this on YouTube and you'll find it, and it's still funny.
You're gonna have to do
whenever
that.
this airs. But anyway, go back to lint chocolate in your coffee.
Yeah, so it's very unhealthy. We used to call it a cup of diabetes because it's basically a scoop of melted Belgian chocolate and then steamed milk, and that's it. In a big
and that's it.
Big
Oh, so
cup.
it's chocolate
yeah,
milk.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's really. I think it might even have cream in it. It's something else.
Yeah.
It tastes like you taking years off your life. That's how good it is.
Mm-hmm.
So
Epic Espresso is it's
That's it, Epic. Yeah, they do a good coffee as well there.
Is that the place where you get it from then? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but there's no coffee in it. It's just straight.
No, but what
That reminds you
they
of
do
the
coffee as well, but
you can do mocha.
That reminds me of the special hot chocolate you get at Seattle's Best Coffee, which was, I think, done with half and half
Oh,
and fancy chocolate.
yeah.
Like you could have it with coffee, and then for the kids, you just have the chocolate.
So I know what half
Take
and
years
half
off your
is.
life.
I know what half and half is, but we don't have half and half in Australia. So do you want to explain it for anyone that is in a geography?
I don't
that
really.
doesn't
I mean,
have
I
it?
just know it's. Well, you go ahead. I just know it's really heavy.
It's half cream, half milk,
and,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So-
the heavy stuff that they make eggnog out of. And
Yeah.
all the it's the
I-
the one if you really want to go overboard.
I saw Alton Brown, who's like
So you could get a giant like hot chocolate of half and half, like
yeah. That's probably
half
what
liter,
that is.
500 milliliters or something. Just like, okay, you could do that. It's about 10,000 calories, but enjoy.
Yeah. No, I saw Alton Brown on Hot Ones. Do you watch Hot Ones on YouTube?
No, but
It's basically what they do is they get like a famous person and they interview them while they're eating hotter and hotter degrees of chili sauce, hot sauce.
as in spicy. Okay,
Yeah.
spicy or not temperature.
Yeah. And Alton Brown was on there, and he poured himself a glass of half and half because apparently the fat in the milk neutralizes the burn from the chili. which I
Yeah,
thought
that'd be quite good.
was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So the other question I had for you both, just to to sort of throw a bit of a curveball to you, and this is again the tie-in between our tea and coffee. Have either of you heard, experienced, or investigated cascara?
No.
Okay, so I am
it's like
pitching,
mascara, except
but with a C
you put
instead.
It,
Yeah, exactly.
put it on
It's
your
literally
nose.
spelled the same way. Have sorry, I've got my kids screaming away in the background there. I don't know if you can hear them.
No.
Hope not.
nope.
Cascara
It's a good mic.
is Cascara is what I am now pitching as potentially the great unifier of tea and coffee.
Controversial.
The
It is controversial. So the reason I'm
The-
pitching it
GUT, the Grand Unified Theory,
of coffee and tea,
physicists are looking for. Yeah.
the reason I'm pitching it there is you've got your coffee bean. We all know a coffee bean, and we know that coffee beans are green before roasted.
Right.
Inside, or coffee beans sit inside of a fruit, which coffee's like coffee luwak. The monkey in
Kopi Luwak.
Indonesia. Yeah, kopi luwak. That's it. They'll eat
It's
the
a
berry
cereut.
and
A
digest
fruit.
the
Civet.
digest it
Civet?
and excrete the bean. But the berry itself has recently, and
So
this
good,
is
is
a
it?
fairly recent piece, is quite apparently quite a flavourful piece, and is being pitched as you brew it like tea, but it has a very sweet, lively, and fruity sort of taste with hints of coffee. So it's being pitched as this sort of mix between the two. So it's brewed and created and made like tea, but has coffee flavours and coffee tastes.
So it's all dried and everything then.
Yeah, well,
And this is specifically the bean, right? Not the leaf you're talking
no,
about.
not the leaf. It's the fruit
Yeah.
around the bean of the coffee plant. So
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
technically it's not a tea because it's not the leaf. So you're not using the leaf, which is the downside.
It's a tisane, if you would.
It's as close to a tisane as you could get from a coffee plant. So
it's a cascara.
A cascara, exactly. So I'm going to put a Twitter post up about cascara being the potential great unifier of tea and coffee. But definitely worth the research. I believe at this point in time the price point is insane. Like I saw some figure of something like too much. No, I can't find it. No, I can't find it. But it's sort of 10 times the price of coffee or tea, equivalent sort of pound for pound. But definitely worth. I'm going to go see if I can find some. Apparently it's orderable on Amazon, so I'll find a link and put it in the show notes so that we can see it. But it may potentially be the thing that brings both of our union of these two amazing drinks into one beautiful union for it. It does have, so it's more like a tisane.
Oh man! Well, I'm seeing here Starbucks has it.
Oh, there we go.
What do they still have it? The Cascara Latte.
Yeah. Lower caffeine count than coffee. So for those of you who are trying to do it, then maybe we have an option there. And jumping on the Amazon link, it's it's £1 for $20 US. So
it's a little bit more. Yeah,
it's pricey.
That's just usually. I mean, it's usually about 15 to 18 for a pound.
I have no idea if that's a good quality, cascara, but
all right.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm going to see if I can source some for myself.
Tea. Oh, it's here. I've got. Where did that go? Yeah, $20. There we go. Yeah, coffee fruit tea. They're calling it.
Yeah.
Superfood with antioxidants. Whole dried coffee fruit for cold or hot brew. Well, there's a smaller one for $10. We'll have to add it to the list and eventually check it. Maybe we'll do a whole episode on it. Huh?
I'm going to see if I can source some and start trying it. But I'll hold judgment. But yes, that's the end of my amazing options and throwaways that can help to bridge the gap between the tea and coffee industries.
Well, as I feel with every episode, I brought some stuff and I learned a hell of a lot.
Yeah,
from you
likewise.
Guys too.
Likewise.
Mike, any last beans of wisdom?
I guess, if you're buying coffee, try and make sure that it's sourced ethically. That would be my word of wisdom.
Good point.
We don't want any people being exploited in order to have your daily beverage.
No, that's a very good point, Mike.
Sorry to bring down the tone there.
I think it's an important point to make, and it's true with anything you get, but especially with coffee that's been around for so long and available so widely everywhere.
Yeah,
that you want to make sure you're getting it the right way, not the wrong way.
Yep.
Okay, well, I think that does it for this episode. Thanks.
Thank you, friends.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to our special April Fool's episode of While There Is Tea, There Is Hope. We hope you enjoyed it. We will be returning to our regularly scheduled tea episodes on the 1st of May. This episode featured hosts Mike Nye, Tarran Merlo, and Alex C. Telander. It was edited and produced by Tarran Merlo. For a list of music featured in this episode, please check our show notes. A transcript for this episode can be found on our website, where you can also find out more about While There Is Tea, There Is Hope at t-cast.com. That's TEA-CAST.com. And please join us for our next tea-filled episode on the 1st of May.